Those are all songs, albums, Mr. Gibson working, taking care of his business, and building his craft. Now, we are now here in this trial. He's been charged with count 1, a RICO. There's no conspiracy here. There's no criminal enterprise, and there's no structure to any criminal organization. The evidence will show that there was no organization that resulted in structure, that resulted in there being a scheme, meetings, officers, the things that you would see in a corrupt, criminal, mafia-style organization that RICO was built for. The evidence is going to show that this goes back, in terms of this indictment, from 2013, 10, 12 plus years ago, 21. The evidence is going to show that this was put together in a RICO case. They put this together. Now let's talk about some of these persons that you will hear from. Now the allegation, ladies and gentlemen, is that Talicia Dewberry is pimped and pandered. She was interviewed by members of the district attorney's office several years later. 6, 7 years later. 22 maybe, 2022. And you will hear her tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that it was not Mr. Gibson, that it's this girl named Raven. That I went to high school with. So I encourage you to follow along and listen to what comes out. It's not a rabbit hole. It's not distractions. It's not going to be any of that. It's going to be asking questions and getting answers. It's this girl named Raven I went to high school with. You're not going to hear that Mr. Gibson recruited her, enticed her to be pimped or pandered. Jessica McQuarrie. Keep in mind the dates. 2013, 2014. So the evidence is going to show that she was interviewed in 2022, 8 years later. You will hear that she moved to Georgia from Indiana to be with a man named James Jefferson. She did not come to Georgia to be with John Michael. You will hear that she was in communication with her mother, Christine Spurlock. There was no pimping or pandering, no simple battery. So you listen to it. Some of it may be hard to hear. Our job is not to be brutal. Our job is not to demean. Our job is to get the information. To get the information so that you can hear it. And so that you can evaluate it. Dominique Wojciechowski. Still in 2015 now. Interviewed when? 2022. See the trend? You're going to see the trend. 2022. You're going to be asking yourself these questions. You're all being interviewed around the same time. I will ask you to follow this case. You will not find any proof that Mr. Gibson committed a sex trafficking on Dominique Wojciechowski. Frederica Spencer and Talithia Wright. I put them together, ladies and gentlemen, because they were together. They were together. The evidence is going to show that they were together when they came to Georgia from Alabama. You're going to hear, ladies and gentlemen, that they didn't come here because Mr. Gibson asked them to come here. You're going to hear that they came to Georgia because Deanna Sanders asked them to come to Georgia. And look at the date, August 1 to August 13. They were interviewed when? 2022. One in April, one in August. Now, when we get them on the stand, and when they come and sit and take this witness stand, we're going to talk. We're going to have some conversation. What did they tell the police that morning? You will hear evidence that they're going to tell the police that they were robbed by 3 men at the Delta Road Baymont Inn. But you may hear something different when they take the stand. You may hear that they may say that they were raped by a guy or 2 guys. And we're going to talk about all those things. Because you will have an opportunity to listen to the evidence. You will have an opportunity to weigh the evidence. You will have an opportunity to listen to and evaluate credibility. And you will do that. There was no pimping and there was no pandering by Mr. John Michael Gibson of Frederica Spencer and Talithia Wright. Jasmine Brown. Mr. Gibson is charged with trafficking Jasmine Brown on March 27, 2018. March 28, 18. She comes into this courtroom and you talk to her and she talks to you and she tells you what she tells you. Then we're going to compare what she tells you to what she's told other people. You'll have an opportunity to listen to the evidence. You will have an opportunity to weigh the evidence. You will have an opportunity to weigh credibility. And you're going to learn that Jasmine Brown is her own person. She did what she wanted. You'll have an opportunity to see text messages. So we're going to go through it. When we go through it, you'll have an opportunity to listen to the evidence. You'll have an opportunity to weigh the evidence. You will have an opportunity to weigh credibility. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard a very long indictment being read. When you heard that indictment being read, there were multiple counts in the indictment. And in that indictment, which is not evidence, but it's a document that put together, being the district attorney's office. You'll have an opportunity to listen to the evidence. You'll have an opportunity to weigh the evidence. You'll have an opportunity to weigh credibility. Count 24, they're charging Mr. Gibson with aggravated assault. They're saying that Mr. Gibson struck Ms. Brown with a belt that likely caused seriously bodily injury. Then if you just walk a few steps down the road through the path of the indictment, and you'll stumble upon the same allegation charging Mr. Gibson with the same conduct, and they chose to charge it as simple battery now, count 30. Beating with the belt. This is their document that they charged Mr. Gibson with. You'll have an opportunity to make it make sense in their indictment. Which is it? Is it either? How can it be both? Why did they put them both in there? We're going to talk about all those things. I want you to listen carefully. You will not find any belt in evidence. You will not find a picture of a belt in evidence. You will not find a description in any paperwork of a belt. Now, part of this case, they charged Mr. Gibson with keeping a place of prostitution. They're saying that on June 7th at 737 Alfred Road, that this place was a place to practice prostitution. The evidence is going to show, ladies and gentlemen, that there was a search warrant that was conducted at this address. You will not hear any evidence that in the search of this location that they found condoms, lubricants, baby oil, no surveillance equipment. You're not going to hear any evidence that there were printed materials promoting illegal services, no ledgers or appointment books, no controlled substances. On the search warrant, they're going to say fed them drugs. Then they charged Mr. Gibson with willful obstruction on that day in June of 2019. They're saying he refused to come out. The evidence is going to show, ladies and gentlemen, that he was in the bed. The evidence is going to show that they used some type of tear gas or some other technique or tactic, and that there was gas in the room. There will be evidence that he complied and came out. They charged him with willful obstruction. Ladies and gentlemen, they charged Mr. Gibson with possession of a firearm during the commission or attempt to commit a felony on June 6, 2019 through June 7, 2019. They allege that Mr. Gibson had on him or within arm's reach a handgun during the commission of a felony against and involving the person of another. And the person of another, you will learn that it says trafficking a person for sexual servitude. But the evidence, ladies and gentlemen, will show that the only people in the residence at the time was Mr. Gibson and Miss Adams. The evidence will show that there was no person that alleged to have been trafficked was inside the residence or on the property. So the evidence is going to show, ladies and gentlemen, that a gun, but there's no alleged trafficked person in the residence. There's no alleged trafficked person on the property. But they find a gun, and they say, oh, it's in possession of a firearm during the commission or attempted commission of trafficking a person. The evidence is going to show otherwise on that day. Jordan Adams, ladies and gentlemen, January 11, 2019 through January 12, 2019. They are alleging, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Gibson trafficked by coercion, that he physically confined her and restrained her. That's count 14. And that he raped her on count 10. And that he committed aggravated sodomy, alleging that he forced her to have oral sex on him. That's what's being alleged on January 11, January 12, 2019. However, ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is going to point in another direction. What direction, ladies and gentlemen, is it going to point? Where is it going to lead us? Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is going to show that Jordan Adams, she was handed a folder with 6 photographs. And of those 6 photographs, ladies and gentlemen, it included a picture of Mr. Tyrone Gibson, amongst 5 others. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Adams picked out a totally different person that she said most like cash out. Now the allegations is that she was sexually assaulted all night long by Mr. Gibson, Mr. Taylor. She picks out a photograph of someone totally different who is not John Michael Gibson. And on it, she writes, most like cash out. But it doesn't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. It goes farther. In her recorded interview, the day she spoke with the police, the question was asked, well, what did cash out look like? Now, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have been here for 7 or 8 days. We're all human. We all have eyes. Our eyes have vision. And you've had an opportunity to see Mr. Gibson. You all came in here, you looked at Mr. Gibson. You looked at Mr. Taylor. You looked at Ms. Smith. And you eyeballed. Because that's just human nature. So they asked the question, what did cash out look like? She said it's tall. She said maybe 6 feet. 6'2". These are her words. But it doesn't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. The evidence is going to show that it goes farther. There was DNA evidence. You're going to hear from Ashley Hinkle. She's a forensic biologist with the GBI. So there was a kit, a sexual assault kit. And this is right after. There's a sexual assault kit that was done. It was preserved. And it was ultimately sent to GBI. And then one day, ladies and gentlemen, they got a Q-tip and they asked Mr. Gibson to open his mouth, and they swabbed the inside of his jaw. And when they did that, they preserved that. And then they sent it to GBI. So now they have the kit that they got from Miss Adams. And now they have the swabbing from Mr. Gibson. And what does the GBI do? What does Ms. Hinkle do? What does the forensic biologist do? They do their science. When they do their science, they offer a report. And that report comes back, ladies and gentlemen. And we have an opportunity to read the report. And the evidence, ladies and gentlemen, is going to show that John Michael Gibson is excluded from the data obtained from the major contributor genotype obtained from the second fraction from the vaginal vestibule swab. August 27, 2021. Mr. Gibson is charged with human trafficking and pimping of Kiara Adams for the purposes of prostitution. And this is in conjunction with a Gwinnett County case. The evidence is going to show, ladies and gentlemen, that that case was dismissed at the preliminary hearing in Gwinnett County. Shontori Talbert, July 1, 2020 through July 11, 2020. We charged Mr. Gibson with trafficking through the use of deception and coercion, pimping, and pandering, keeping a place of prostitution, going back to that Alfred Road address. Now, what is the evidence going to show? The evidence is going to show that Shontori Talbert got in her vehicle, ladies and gentlemen. She's 32 years old, and that she drove herself to Georgia from Texas in her own vehicle living with her daughter. And she's 32 years old, not 18. This is not a case about minors. This is a case about adults. 32 years old, ladies and gentlemen. For 10 days, that's what they're saying, that he trafficked her. The evidence is going to show that Mr. Tyrone Gibson, John Michael Gibson, did not traffic Shantori Talbot. And we'll get into it. You'll have an opportunity to listen to the evidence, weigh the evidence, and weigh the credibility. We've already talked about the Gwinnett County charges. Now, you may hear jail calls associated with this case. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you heard the state talk about co-conspirators. Well, I don't know if they're co-conspirators or not. That's going to be for you to determine. That's what you're here to do. That's how they are being labeled. Kiara Adams and Deanna Sanders, you will have an opportunity to listen to the evidence on them. You're going to have an opportunity to listen to the evidence on them. You will have the opportunity to weigh the credibility. You will hear that they, on this indictment, you're going to hear that they were charged. Now, you heard the state of Georgia say, well, there have been no promises made. Well, we're going to get into whether there were promises made. We're going to get into whether they made proffers, whether they made statements to the district attorney's office, who was present, what were they facing. You're going to hear all of that. You're going to have an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to determine what was their motivation in what they said. What was their interest in what they said? Was there anything, or is there anything over their head? Or do they have to come in here and talk in order for things to go smoothly with their case? You'll have an opportunity to judge credibility. You'll have an opportunity to determine those things that motivate people to say whatever they're going to say. Then when it's all said and done, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask you to weigh the evidence, listen to the evidence, judge credibility. This is a very long indictment, which is not evidence. There are a lot of witnesses. But if you stay with us, which we know you will, we'll come back later. We'll tie it all together. When we tie it all together, we're going to come back and we're going to ask you to find Mr. John Michael Gibson not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Francis, on behalf of Ms. Smith.
Linda Smith is not guilty of the charges concerning this indictment. Linda Smith is not guilty of the charges concerning this indictment. You will not see any evidence that Linda Smith coerce anybody into a life of sexual servitude. She did not deceive anyone into a life of sexual servitude. She did not gain financially from anyone's sexual servitude. That she did not subject anyone to sexual servitude. She did not harbor anyone in sexual servitude. And she did not maintain anyone in sexual servitude. All of the witnesses that will come and talk to you have already made statements. And when you listen to those statements, what you'll hear is they sort of barely knew Linda Smith. She was around, but they sort of barely knew her. No one's going to say that she did anything to force them into sex. You're not going to see a single text message that illustrates that Linda Smith forced anyone into sex. You're not going to see an Instagram message. You're not going to see a video. You're not going to see a Facebook message. You're not going to see anything that she forced anyone or deceived anyone into a life of sex. Linda Smith is not a part of a group of individuals committing crime. She's not. She's not. There's going to be no evidence that she had any intent to be a part of any group, that she had any knowledge of any organized crime, any racketeering, anything of that nature. Linda Smith received some cash acts from a few people over a period of years. She received cash acts from Deanna for a couple reasons. Deanna rented a room from Linda Smith with her own money. There's even a check that she wrote to Linda Smith. And Kiara used Linda Smith's car and wrecked it. And so, as a result of that, she cashed after the money for her car. So, she is not gaining anything from any enterprise. She's not part of any enterprise. All of the statements that were made to law enforcement, when people were arrested, in this case was investigated, barely mentioned Linda Smith. Evidence will not be there. You'll see it for yourself. And at the end of the evidence, we ask that you find Linda Smith not guilty of all charges.
All right. Mr. Hoover. Sure. Look at the PowerPoint. If it's up, will you take it down? Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tyrone Taylor didn't rape Jordan Adams. Tyrone Taylor didn't force himself on Jordan Adams. Tyrone Taylor didn't force Jordan Adams into prostitution. Tyrone Taylor is not guilty of what the state has charged him. Now, this case starts with Jordan Adams way before January 11th and January 12th. This actually starts a couple months earlier in Cobb County. You're going to hear evidence and testimony that Jordan Adams was found under the influence of cocaine, driving a vehicle with her daughter in the back seat. She was arrested for that. Because she was arrested, DFACS gave custody of her daughter to her mother. You're also going to hear evidence that while Jordan Adams was out with that case pending, she stayed in the house with her parents and her daughter. Her father found a syringe full of drugs in the same house her daughter was in. You're going to hear evidence that because she, once again, endangered the life of her daughter, her father kicked her out of the house. Fast forward to January 11th. A couple months later, Jordan Adams happens to be at a gas station. Supposedly, she's telling people that she's going to the airport because she doesn't have anywhere to go. She goes to the gas station, runs into Tyrone Taylor. Goes up to Tyrone, hey, can you give me a couple bucks so I can get to the airport? Tyrone says, yes, I will help you out. Gives her a couple dollars. Tyrone says, hey, can I have your phone number? Jordan says, yes. Willingly gave Tyrone her phone number after he gave her a couple dollars. Fast forward a couple hours, Tyrone's texting her, hey, what's up? Hey, what are you doing? Where are you at? Jordan Adams says, I can't talk right now because I don't have a place to stay. I'm a little busy. I don't have a place to stay. So Tyrone goes, hey, if you need some help, you can come stay with us for a little while. Jordan Adams says, okay, tells Tyrone where she is. Tyrone doesn't have a car of his own at the time, so he sends a friend to pick her up. Jordan Adams willingly gets into this vehicle. No one forced her to. Jordan Adams and the friend drives Jordan Adams to the Airway Hotel where Tyrone's staying. Jordan Adams willingly gets out of the vehicle. No one forced her to. Jordan Adams goes up to the door, knocks on it, and willingly goes into Tyrone's room. No one forced her to. Now, once in the room, drugs are there. Everyone's, or not everyone, people are doing drugs, stuff is happening, that's it. That's all we know as of right now. Fast forward, Jordan starts to tell this story about what happens in that room, and depending on who she's talking to, her story changes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear the evidence is going to show you that the very first person that Jordan was communicating with was her mother via text message. The evidence is going to show you Jordan never said, "Hey mom, I'm being raped by 2 men, send help." You're never going to see evidence that says, "Hey mom, I'm being tortured and kidnapped by 2 men, this is where I am." "Hey mom, I'm being held on my own, I have nowhere to go, nothing to do, please send help." What you're going to hear is Jordan said things like, "Don't call anyone because I'll go to jail." Or, "Mom, I'm going to call a friend to come pick me up. I'll take care of that on my own." Or, "Mom, don't say anything that's going to get me in trouble." The state wants you to believe that Tyrone Taylor and Mr. Gibson are raping Jordan Adams from 6 to 12 hours, torturing her, abusing her, kidnapped her. The very first person she talks to about this, and she basically says, "Don't call anyone because I'm going to get arrested." Fast forward to, January 12th, when she's talking to officers. Second story. Second time she has an opportunity to say or to tell what actually happened. Now, the evidence is going to show you that she tells officers, as soon as she walks into that room, Tyrone made her take a shower, and then the rape started happening immediately. She says it's Tyrone is the only one raping her, and basically for about 3 or 4 hours, it's Tyrone continuously. He would get up, he would stop for a minute, and then he'd go right back to it. First time she talks to an officer, that's what she says. Then she adds in, "Well, you know what? It happened up to about 3 a.m., then Mr. Gibson shows up. And now it's 2 men raping her from 3 a.m. till 9 a.m. that same morning." So with this story, she tells the cops that 2 men are brutally raping her, torturing her, physically holding her down to the point where she can't move or breathe. They're choking her to where she can't move or breathe. She is scratching them, she is fighting them, but she can't stop them. Sometimes both of them rape her together. Sometimes they rape her one by one. Sometimes they use condoms. Sometimes they didn't. And every time one of them would stop, they would give her cocaine. So ladies and gentlemen, the first time she talks to an officer, she says, 2 men raped me from 9 to 12 hours straight. They never really stopped because one of them were always doing something. But when one would pause, I would have cocaine. So she's getting raped, tortured, and beaten, and drugged for 9 to 12 hours straight. A month later, she's talking to other officers. This time, she tells officers, "Well, when I got to the room, I took a shower. Tyrone didn't rape me for the first few hours. The rape didn't start until 3 a.m. when Mr. Gibson shows up." Story's already starting to change again. This time, she goes on to say, "Yes, they both raped me for all this time. They drugged me the entire time. I couldn't do anything about it. But I was scratching them. I was doing all that, but I couldn't do anything else about it." The first time they talked to the officers, Jordan Adams said, "Well, all I saw was cocaine. They kept giving me cocaine." The second time they talked to the officers, Jordan Adams, "Oh no, there was cocaine, there was heroin, there was marijuana, there was vodka, there was tequila. We were doing everything." Her story completely changes every single time. What we do know at some point, Jordan is not in that room with Tyrone, she's not in that room with Mr. Gibson. Jordan, for 3 hours, let Jordan tell you, she is walking up and down the street from the hotel to the Citgo. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is why this is so important. While Jordan Adams was walking up and down the street from the Citgo, she was by herself. We have no idea where Mr. Gibson is because she kind of forgets about him and doesn't say anything, but she says Tyrone was in the hotel room. So Miss Adams is walking up and down the street by herself with a cell phone. She goes to the Citgo. We know the day before she was 100% okay with begging people for money so she can get help. But now, fast forward, she's been raped by 2 men she doesn't know for 6 to 12 hours, depending on who she's talking to. She goes to the sick-go. She doesn't tell anybody she got raped. She doesn't go inside to the employee and say, hey, I'm being raped. I've been kidnapped. They're forcing me to prostitute. She doesn't do that. For 3 hours, she's walking up and down that street, seeing people, communicating with people. She never once said, help me, I have been raped. I am being tortured. I've been kidnapped. They're forcing me into prostitution. Ladies and gentlemen, you're also going to hear that during this time, Jordan Adams runs into the hotel manager. The manager goes out, what are you doing? Why are you walking around? Jordan Adams does not say, help me, I have been raped. She does not say, help me, I have been kidnapped. I have been tortured. They are beating me and forcing me into prostitution. Jordan says, you know what, I'm going to go get some cigarettes. That's why I'm walking, so I'm just going to get cigarettes. Those 2 times, Jordan could have told somebody, I need help. Again, she had her cell phone this entire time. Tyrone's nowhere around. Mr. Gibson disappears. She never called a family member and said, hey mom, this is where I am, come get me. I've been raped. She never called a friend, hey, this is where I am, location drop, come get me, I've been raped. Sitco gas station, doesn't say a word. Hotel manager, doesn't say a word. Has a cell phone in her hand by herself, doesn't say a word. But the state wants you to believe that 2 men raped her for half a day, up to 12 hours, and she doesn't leave. Just to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see that the Sitco is half a mile away from the hotel, the Airway Motel, where it used to be. That's 2,640 feet. Takes about 10 minutes to walk there. You're also going to see the Atlanta Police Department Zone 4 precinct was 410 feet away from that hotel. It takes less than 2 minutes to get there. And what's crazy, to get to the Sitco from the hotel, she passed the precinct. So what that means, for 3 hours, she's walking up and down the street, past the police precinct, but she never goes in. She never goes up there and says, hey, these 2 guys are raping me. These 2 guys are forcing me into prostitution. These 2 guys are beating me with the butt of a gun, and they're torturing me, and I can't breathe. But the state wants you to believe that they raped her for 12 hours. She's by herself the entire time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're also going to hear testimony that allegedly Tyrone, after he forced her out into prostitution, said, if a man picks you up, take him to the Quality Inn. The Quality Inn is right next door to the precinct. Once again, she has an opportunity to go to another hotel to tell somebody, away from these 2 men, I'm getting raped and abused. She didn't do it. There's a reason she didn't do it, ladies and gentlemen. Because she got kicked out of her house while she was out with a pending case for drugs, doing drugs and making money the only way she knows how. That's why she was out there in Fulton Industrial. But the state wants you to believe that 2 men raped her, tortured her, beat her, choked her, suffocated her, crushed her body, and drugged her the entire time for 6 to 12 hours. Yet Jordan Adams still had enough power and strength and energy to walk up and down the street for 3 hours and didn't tell anybody about that. With the cell phone in her hand, nobody around her. Now, at some point, an officer is going to ask her, well, why didn't you just walk away? Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Adams' response to that is because they had my stuff in that room. The officer said, what was the stuff? Jordan Adams said, some of my clothes and a phone charger. The state wants you to believe that 2 men raped her, beat her, and tortured her, and kidnapped her, and forced her into prostitution for half a day, up to 12 hours, and the reason she didn't leave was because she didn't have all her clothes and a phone charger. Does that make sense? Absolutely not. Now, Mr. Matthews touched a little bit on DNA evidence, and he was right, the same kit was done, just like they swabbed Mr. Gibson's mouth, they swabbed Mr. Taylor's mouth. What that means is they put a little swab in there, get your DNA, send it off to be tested. Ladies and gentlemen, through this investigation, officers also documented and collected gray bedding from the Airway Motel room, black bedding from the Airway Motel room, 1 used condom, swabs from both of their mouths, the rape kit. Now, with the rape kit, this is very important. They collected swabs from the vaginal vault, swabs from the vaginal vestibule, anus swabs, oral cavity swabs, inner thigh swabs, left side nail swabs, right side nail swabs, known head hair, left side nail clippings, and right side nail clippings. They collected all of that evidence, and what you are not going to hear in this trial at all is that they can find Tyrone Taylor's DNA on him. A man that raped her, beat her, and tortured her for 6 to 12 hours, depending on what she says and who she's talking to, they won't find DNA. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to see any pictures in this trial to where she's beaten. You're not going to see pictures in this trial to where she's scratched. She only has a hangnail at this point. She's not bleeding. She's not cut up. And she has the energy to walk around after being raped for half a day. You're not going to see any of that. On top of that, you're not going to have DNA that says this is Tyrone Taylor's, but they want you to believe the two men raped this young lady for 12 hours, abused her, kidnapped her, and forced her to walk the street. You've heard them present their case. I just ask you, please listen to everything presented to you in this courtroom for the next few weeks. Not only do you get to hear what our witnesses say, you actually get to see them when they say it. And that's really important. Because I'm pretty sure Jordan Adams is going to get up here, she's going to start crying. You don't have to worry about just the crying. You get to see and hear everything that's going on. Before you make your final decision, please take your notes, write everything down, pay attention, focus on what you see and what you hear, and I'm confident that you will find Tyrone Taylor not guilty of all the charges the state is putting on. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let me just say this to all of you. If at any point you have to use the restroom, don't sit there uncomfortable. Don't even let me know, okay? With that, are your first words? Please.
State calls taking service.
You do? Okay. We need a break for a few minutes. Okay, so we take 5 minutes.
All right, for the jury.
And you all let me know as well. If it is staying ready for the rest of the
All right. Now we see some familiar faces in the courtroom from the YSL trial. You have the father-son defense team duo back in there. Who they're the lawyers representing rapper Cash Out. You have Miss Love on the prosecution side again, and this is a RICO case if you didn't know. So I was actually like, dang, it's been a minute since I had some content to really cover live. And then I saw that the trial just started. And if you don't know, not only is Cash Out on trial, his mother is on trial also. They said they was down there selling and buying women. Now that's what they say. I don't know. But we're gonna watch it. I think this trial is set to last about 2 weeks. Y'all know I have surgery in 8 days. I'm going to cover it up until then. Hopefully it ends before I have surgery. But if not, I'll follow up with it afterwards. But every day I'm going to go live so we can keep up with it. It's been a minute. We haven't covered a trial. Was YSL the last trial we covered? Because, we have the Melly case here and there. Oh, yeah. And then we did Yellow Beezy. So, but as far as trial, I think this YSL was the last trial. So we're gonna ride this one out and see how it goes. I gotta get caught up. I'm not all the way caught up with cash out situation. I remember posting him on my blog that he got arrested with his mom. So I'm gonna be new eyes to this because I don't have no background history to this case. So I'm really just gonna be watching it and see how it plays out and see if the state gonna be doing a good job, is the defense doing a good job? It is gonna be, as you heard already in opening statements, it's gonna be some sensitive conversations, okay? Because you have alleged, SAs, all that. So we definitely gonna have some moments where it's gonna be a little tough to hear, see or whatever, but we're gonna ride out with it. So y'all can catch me live every day that they have trial, except the 19th and the 20th. If trial is still going on, I won't be able to stream it because I'll be in the hospital. But other than that, I hope everybody's day is going good. Y'all, I'm so hungry. I'm gonna tell y'all this. I'm hungry. This is day 6 of my pre-op liquid diet. I'm stressed out. I've been just doing content left and right to keep my mind off of food. Okay. So yeah, y'all helping me, you know what I'm saying, stay focused. Keenan, what's up? Keenan said, I can't believe Miss Love is doing this trial. But Miss Love, I mean, it makes sense for her to be there because Miss Love is the head of like special victims or something. So, or witnesses, and we talking about SA, victims. So yeah, I can understand it. All right, we're back in it. We have Judge Leftridge. That's interesting.
I move, of course, I'm no engineer. I move, she was like, it's too hell. Like, man, I can't mess with it. I wait till some of the other things mess with it.
I can't even shoot over that way. That mug got a full frame.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You need a chair, brother? You want a chair?
Yeah.
You just put it right there. It's up to you.
Well.
It's up to you. All right.
I'm good.
Okay.
If I sit right there, sit down, I may not get.
Oh yeah, man, you see that? I see what you're talking about. All right. You gotta be smart now. Don't play yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, cause at first I was shooting over that way. Mm-hmm. I panned over this way, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a wide shower.
Whoa. Yeah. It's on that other camera or something. I don't know why they had it on this camera.
Yeah.
They got it on
I
that
don't
camera.
know. It was on the camera that was shooting. At first, it was them just those, and it was shooting back this way.
Yeah, you
Then
shoot,
they-
yeah. We usually have those two on.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Because it was showing on that one,
Yep.
in the front, that one over here, headband. I was like, oh.
Yeah. They're straight showing this.
Yeah.
They never had that camera on.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna really can block. They want it on for some reason. I'm making it though.
Well, I appreciate it, though.
Sergeant Pilgrim? Yes. Can you come here for just a second, please? This is not being taken down, next time. Do we need to have everybody involved?
Those two probably not. But they're
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know what. No, I guess I don't.
A man who goes by the nickname Lil Woody might be one of the most entertaining witnesses we've seen so far in the RICO trial against rapper Young Thug out in Atlanta. And that's saying something. We have some of the top moments from Kenneth Copeland's testimony over the last few days. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey there, everybody, this is another Law and Crime legal alert. Have you experienced severe gastroparesis or other side effects after taking Ozempic or another GLP-1 weight loss medication? The Ozempic lawsuits allege that the drug can lead to severe intestinal blockage and persistent vomiting, and that manufacturers allegedly failed to provide adequate warnings about these risks. Well, True Law, one of our legal sponsors, is helping those injured file a claim through an experienced attorney who helps ensure your claim is thoroughly presented. Visit glp1case.com/sidebar to answer less than 10 questions and check your eligibility to file a claim. Since the state's star witness Kenneth Copeland took the stand in the trial of rapper Jeffrey Williams, also known as Young Thug, and his co-defendants, there has really been nothing short of absolute drama. But honestly, what do you expect in this case with all of its twists and turns? I'm talking, of course, about the case where Atlanta prosecutors allege that Williams is one of the founders of YSL, or Young Slime Life, which they claim is a criminal street gang that has been terrorizing the city. It's part of a wide-sweeping racketeering, or RICO, indictment where Williams and his co-defendants are charged with numerous crimes. The defense says that this is just a record label and there's nothing more nefarious that's going on. Now, this trial has been a little bit of a circus because, for one thing, it has been going on for what, almost a year and a half? And by the way, almost a year of that was jury selection alone. Well, now, one of the witnesses that we had been anticipating and that we were looking forward to hearing from was Kenneth Copeland. He had been mentioned many times in prior testimony and was seen speaking with police in an interrogation tape that leaked online. He was supposed to be a star witness for the prosecution because he had previously told investigators that Williams was connected to criminal activity. But if prosecutors thought they were going to have pretty solid evidence in the form of Copeland's testimony, or it was going to be smooth sailing, they were disappointed. Why do I say that? Well, Copeland, who also goes by the nickname Woody or Lil Woody, was very uncooperative from the beginning. Before he was even called to the stand on Friday, June 7th, his attorney announced to the court that he didn't want to be there and he didn't want to testify.
So, Your Honor, Mr. Copeland is here. I can state as his attorney that he intends to exercise his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. He does not wish to testify in this trial. And I would ask, there is no other, he's not on bond, he's not on probation, there's nothing like that. I would ask that he be allowed to leave this courtroom without being compelled to testify.
Okay, now the prosecution had given Copeland what's called use immunity. And that means that whatever he would say on the stand during this trial couldn't be used against him legally. Well, at least by the state. It seems there's some concern, maybe on Copeland's part, about whether he could end up with federal charges. But anyway, putting that to the side, when you're granted use immunity and the court compels you to testify, you really can't plead the Fifth anymore because your right against self-incrimination is essentially protected.
What's your pleasure?
Say what?
I said, what's your pleasure, sir? Do you wish to give testimony? I know you don't want to give testimony in this case, but you've been given immunity in this particular circumstance, use immunity. So are you going to testify?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Copeland, good afternoon. Do you want to be here?
Ma'am,
Do you want to be here?
I'm here.
Okay. Are you going to let me ask you some questions?
Okay.
How old are you?
Grown.
Okay, what does grown mean?
I'm an adult.
Okay. And when you say you're an adult, what number in years are you?
I plead the Fifth.
Mr. Copeland, given the fact that you have invoked your Fifth Amendment privilege, but the state has already given you immunity under 24-5-507, this court holds you in willful contempt, and we'll see you on Monday. And we'll see if we can get some more testimony at that point in time. Take him into custody.
Yep, Copeland was held in contempt of court and he was taken to the Fulton County Jail for the weekend. He was back on that Monday, and this time he at least answered questions, but getting the answers that the prosecution wanted was a little more difficult. I mean, even on basic questions like, how old are you, or where did you go to school, proved to be complicated.
And when you were younger, did you go to school?
Yes.
Where did you attend school?
I don't know. I went to a lot of different schools.
Okay, what are all the schools you went to?
I don't recall all of them.
Or just tell me some of them.
I only know one, Slater,
Slater, is that elementary school or middle school?
elementary.
Why you don't remember what middle school you went to? Did you go to middle school?
I think I did.
How long did you go to, did you finish middle school?
Relevance. Overruled. Yeah, I think.
Okay. Did you go to high school at all?
Yeah.
All right.
By the way, let me give you some context here. According to the prosecution back in 2015, several of the YSL defendants were involved in the murder of Donovan Thomas, also known as Big Nut, an alleged rival gang member. Now, Shannon Stillwell and Diamante Kendrick, two of Williams' co-defendants in this trial, they have been charged in connection with the shooting, and Williams himself is accused of renting the car that was used in that alleged murder. The prosecution, they needed Copeland to confirm that he knew these men, but even that was like pulling teeth.
Can you take a moment and look at those pictures? Please look at those pictures.
Do I have to look at them?
Yes. I'm going to start first with Stacy Exhibit 350 Yankee. Tell me if you recognize individual Stacy Exhibit 350 Yankee.
I recognize myself.
Okay. Do you recognize anybody else in 350 Yankee?
Myself.
Do you recognize anyone else in 350 Yankee?
Their face is covered up.
Okay. Do you see someone's face who's not covered up in 350 Yankee?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recognize who that person is?
I can hardly tell.
Okay. Is that Shannon Jackson? Your Honor, at this point in time, I'm turning to impeachment. Do you know someone by the name of Demekion Garlington?
Street name.
Little D.
For sure.
How do you know Little D?
I didn't birth him.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I almost birthed him.
You almost birthed him?
Yeah.
Tell the jury, what do you mean by that?
I mean, he my son.
Okay. And let me ask you this. Do you know another person who's referenced as Little D?
What you mean?
Do you know someone who's called Little D from Cleveland?
Oh, I heard of him.
You heard of him. Okay, we'll talk about him in a moment.
You said what now?
Tell me who you recognize in 380 Yankee.
Oh, me and Coco.
Who's Coco?
The ugly boy right here.
Okay.
And the prosecution also needed to connect Copeland with Williams himself. So they tried to get Copeland to give evidence of their friendship, but Copeland appeared hesitant.
My question is, when he was not in the studio and you hung out with him, where would you hang out with him at?
We used to do fun stuff, like go to like bowling alleys and stuff like that. He went to the kids' football game, I remember. I've been to the club with them. I've been on shows. I mean, correct that.
You said on shows?
Yeah, like when I watch them perform.
All right.
Now, Mr. Copeland and his testimony, or lack thereof, it had a bit of a ripple effect. Why do I say that? I say that because according to Williams' lead defense attorney, Brian Steele, he was told that the judge, the prosecution team, Copeland, and a stand-in attorney for Copeland were all part of an ex parte meeting, which is when they meet secretly in the judge's chambers, one-on-one with the judge. The defense is not present. And the defense argued that this was highly improper to have a private meeting with a sworn witness when they had no idea this was going on, especially when some of what Copeland allegedly said, namely that he would confess to being responsible for the murder of Thomas, or that the judge and prosecutor allegedly pressured him in that meeting to testify or face jail time. The defense said that that information we should have been privy to. Now, Judge Earl Glanville only wanted to know one thing from Brian Steele. How did you find out about this? How did you find out about this meeting? Steele wouldn't give up his information. He wouldn't give up his source. He cited privilege, that doing so would violate the Georgia bar rules. And so an angry Judge Glanville held him in contempt of court. He originally was supposed to report to jail this weekend to begin a 20-day stint over the next 10 weekends, but he was granted a reprieve by the Georgia Supreme Court, and he won't have to go, at least for now. We actually did a whole sidebar episode on this with some really great insight from Ben Shue, the lawyer for Johnny Depp during his defamation case. I encourage everybody to check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about this issue. But back to Kenneth Copeland. Caleb Bumpus was the stand-in counsel for Copeland's regular attorney who had gone out of town. And the allegation has surfaced, and based on Judge Glanville's statements in court, he seems to suggest that she may have been the one who told Brian Steele about this ex parte meeting. Now, she and Copeland will have to appear at a show cause hearing in a couple of weeks to determine if they should be held in contempt of court. Well, after all of this chaos surrounding the ex parte meeting, Copeland decided he didn't want Ms. Bumpus to represent him anymore.
Sir, Mr. Copeland, is it your desire to release your counsel at this point in time?
She fired.
She's